The most dangerous prison in the world has no walls, no guards, and no chains. It's the prison of being too brilliant for a world that rewards obedience over originality. And right now, somewhere out there, someone with a mind capable of changing everything is slowly fading into obscurity while the mediocre inherit the earth. This isn't a complaint. This is a diagnosis. And if you've ever felt like you were born in the wrong era, like your ideas are too big for the rooms you find yourself in, then what I'm about to share will either set you free or haunt you forever. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine two people starting at the same company on the same day. One of them is exceptionally intelligent, creative, someone who sees solutions others can't even imagine. The other is average in every measurable way, unremarkable, predictable, safe. Fast forward 5 years. The brilliant one is still in the same position, frustrated, perhaps already planning their exit. The mediocre one is now their manager. This isn't fiction. This is the story playing out in corporations, institutions, and systems across the entire world, every single day. But why? Why does the universe seem to conspire against those who carry fire in their minds? The answer lies in something the ancient Greeks understood deeply. They called it the tall poppy syndrome, though they expressed it differently. The flower that grows highest gets cut first. Brilliance, by its very nature, is threatening. It exposes the limitations of those around it. It reveals uncomfortable truths. It disrupts the comfortable lies that keep systems running smoothly. And systems, whether they're corporations, governments, or social circles, have one primary goal above all else: self-preservation. Think about what happens when a truly original thinker enters a room full of people who have built their entire careers on following rules and maintaining the status quo. That brilliant person doesn't even need to say anything. Their mere presence creates cognitive dissonance. Their questions, innocent as they might be, expose the emptiness of processes that everyone else has accepted without examination. Their solutions, elegant and obvious to them, make others feel inadequate. And here's the cruel irony. The brilliant person often has no idea they're doing this. They're simply being themselves. They're simply seeing what they see. But the mediocre? They understand something the brilliant often miss entirely. They understand the game. They know that success in most human systems isn't about being the best. It's about being acceptable. It's about making the people above you feel comfortable. It's about never threatening anyone's position or self-image. The mediocre person instinctively knows how to shrink themselves just enough to fit into whatever shape the system requires. There's a psychological principle called the Dunning-Kruger effect that partially explains this phenomenon. Those with limited competence often overestimate their abilities, while those with genuine expertise tend to doubt themselves. The mediocre person walks into every room with unearned confidence. They speak with certainty about things they barely understand. And in a world where perception often matters more than reality, this confidence becomes its own form of currency. Meanwhile, the brilliant person is paralyzed by their awareness of complexity. They see all the variables, all the potential pitfalls, all the nuances that the confident mediocre person completely misses. When asked for an opinion, they hesitate, they qualify, they acknowledge uncertainty. And in doing so, they appear weak to those who mistake simplicity for strength. If this is resonating with something deep inside you, if you're recognizing patterns from your own life in these words, then stay with me. Because understanding why this happens is only the first step. The real question is what you can do about it. Here's what nobody tells you about brilliance. It's a burden that comes with no instruction manual. When you're capable of seeing further than others, you spend half your life waiting for people to catch up, and the other half wondering if something is fundamentally wrong with you. You question your own perceptions, because surely if you were right, more people would agree with you. You start to believe that maybe you're the problem. Maybe your standards are too high. Maybe your ideas really are as impractical as everyone keeps telling you. This is how the system breaks brilliant people, not through direct confrontation, but through isolation and self-doubt. The brilliant person starts to internalize the message that their gifts are actually defects. They learn to hide their true thoughts. They develop social masks to appear more normal, more relatable, more like everyone else. And piece by piece, the fire that once burned so brightly begins to dim. I think of all the Nikola Teslas of history, the ones who died in obscurity while lesser minds took credit for their work. I think of all the visionaries who were labeled crazy in their own time, only to be proven right decades after their death. I think of the countless unnamed geniuses throughout human history who never got the chance to contribute what they could have because the world simply wasn't ready for them. But here's where I want to shift your perspective. Because if you've identified with anything I've said so far, you might be falling into a trap. The trap of learned helplessness. The trap of believing that because the system is rigged against brilliance, you should simply give up and accept your fate as an unrecognized genius. That would be the easy path. And brilliance, if it means anything at all, should mean the ability to find solutions that others can't see. So let me offer you one. The mistake brilliant people make is assuming that the world should recognize and reward them for their gifts. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how human systems work. The world doesn't owe you anything. Not recognition, not success, not even fairness. The world is simply a collection of other humans, each pursuing their own interests, each operating from their own limited perspectives. The mediocre person understands this intuitively. They never expected the world to hand them anything, so they learned to play the game. They learned to network, to flatter, to position themselves strategically. They learned that being liked is often more valuable than being right. And while this might seem shallow or even dishonest to the brilliant person, there's actually profound wisdom hidden in this approach. Here's the secret that philosophers from Machiavelli to Sun Tzu have understood. Mastery of the external world begins with mastery of perception. It doesn't matter how brilliant your ideas are if you can't communicate them in a way that others can receive. It doesn't matter how visionary your solutions are if you can't build the relationships and alliances needed to implement them. Brilliance without social intelligence is like a powerful engine with no wheels. All that potential energy going nowhere. But there's a deeper secret still that most people never discover, and this is where everything changes. The reason brilliant people suffer isn't ultimately because the world is unfair. It's because they've attached their sense of self-worth to external validation. They need the world to recognize their brilliance in order to feel okay about themselves. And this need, this desperate hunger for acknowledgement, becomes its own kind of prison. The mediocre person, paradoxically, is often happier precisely because they have no such attachment. They don't need to change the world. They don't need to be remembered after they die. They're content to play their role, collect their rewards, and enjoy simple pleasures. There's a freedom in that which the brilliant person rarely experiences. Now, I'm not saying you should become mediocre. That would be a waste of your gifts. What I'm saying is that the path forward isn't about fighting the system or proving your worth to people who can't understand you. The path forward is about transcending the entire game. The truly awakened, brilliant person realizes that their gifts are not about them at all. Brilliance is simply what flows through you. It's not your possession to be hoarded or your badge to be displayed. It's your responsibility to be channeled. And when you shift from asking, "How can I get recognized?" to asking, "How can I serve?" everything transforms. The greatest geniuses in history weren't motivated by fame or recognition. They were motivated by the work itself. Einstein didn't develop relativity to win awards. He did it because he couldn't not do it. The question consumed him. The problem demanded to be solved, and he was simply the vessel through which the solution emerged. When you reach this level of understanding, the success or failure of the mediocre people around you becomes completely irrelevant. You're no longer playing their game. You're playing an infinite game, one measured not in promotions or social status, but in the quality of your contribution to human knowledge and experience. But let me be practical here, because philosophy alone won't pay your bills or provide for your family. Here are the bridges you must build between your inner brilliance and the external world. First, learn the language of the people you need to influence. Every group, every organization, every culture has its own vocabulary, its own values, its own way of determining what matters. Your job is not to impose your language on them. Your job is to translate your ideas into terms they can understand and appreciate. Second, find your tribe. The brilliant person's greatest mistake is trying to fit in everywhere. You will never fit in everywhere. But somewhere out there, there are others like you. People who see what you see. People who think the way you think. The internet has made it possible to find these people as never before in human history. Stop wasting energy on people who will never understand you and invest it in those who already do. Third, play the long game. The mediocre person optimizes for today. They want the promotion now, the recognition now, the reward now. The brilliant person should optimize for legacy. What will matter in 10 years, in 50 years, in 100? Most of what the mediocre person achieves will be forgotten within a generation. What you create from the depths of your brilliance has the potential to echo through centuries. Fourth, and this is perhaps the most important, protect your inner fire at all costs. The world will try to extinguish it. People will mock you, dismiss you, actively work against you. Systems will reward your compliance and punish your originality. But that fire is the most precious thing you possess. It is literally the source of everything you have to offer. Guard it with your life. Here's what I want you to understand as we reach the end of this journey together. The fact that mediocre people rise while brilliant people disappear is not a tragedy. It's a test. It's the universe asking you a very simple question. Do you want success as the world defines it, or do you want to fulfill your actual potential? These are not the same thing. They have never been the same thing, and every brilliant person throughout history has had to choose between them. The ones who chose worldly success often achieved it, but at the cost of their brilliance. They learned to play small, to fit in, to become just another cog in the machine. The ones who chose their potential often struggled, suffered, and died without recognition. But they left behind works and ideas that continue to illuminate human existence centuries later. You cannot have both, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you a comfortable lie. So what will you choose? Will you dim your light to make others comfortable? Will you shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for you? Or will you burn with everything you have, knowing that most people will never understand, but that the few who do will carry your fire forward long after you're gone? The mediocre will always rise in the short term. That's how systems work. But systems change, paradigms shift. And when they do, it's never the mediocre who lead the way. It's the brilliant ones who refuse to disappear. If this message has reached something inside you that's been sleeping, something that needed to hear these words, then I need you to do something. Not for me, but for yourself. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue this conversation. Share this video with one person who you know is carrying brilliance that the world hasn't recognized yet. And leave a comment telling me about a time when you chose to protect your fire instead of extinguishing it for the comfort of others. The mediocre don't build legacies, they inherit them. But you have the power to create something that outlasts everything the mediocre have ever achieved. The only question is whether you'll have the courage to do it. The world doesn't need more mediocrity. It has enough. What the world needs, what it has always needed, is the dangerous, uncomfortable, transformative gift of your brilliance. Stop waiting for permission to give it.